The press release is basically you're saying everything that's happening in like a sentence or two, and then you say everything that's happening in like a paragraph or two, and then you break down those things. You break down and elaborate on some of those things, and then you end it. Okay. And everything has its own place.
This is episode 102 of the Arts Academy podcast with Victor Varnado and Roxxy Haze. How to write a press release.
Everybody, welcome to the Arts Academy podcast. This is Dean Victor Varnado. I'm here with Headmistress Roxxy Haze.
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? I'm back.
Yeah, you are. You're back, Roxy. Welcome. It's nice to see you again. You about ready to rock this?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it then. Let's rock it. Let's rock it, Roxy.
Woo!
Yeah, we're about to rock this. Okay, everybody, as you know, the Arts Academy teaches you everything about the entertainment industry. I am Victor Varnado, wild card, by the way. I did say that in a business meeting today that I will always be a wild card. I don't even know what that means. I was just being belligerent. Somebody was talking to me about rules, and I was like, I hate rules. and I said, I exploded. Sorry about that to whoever it was. Actually, I'm not really sorry because he understands. I get antsy. Like whenever anybody's sitting down talking to me, I get so antsy about just any structure. I'm building a life without structure on purpose. All right. So speaking of without structure, Roxxy Haze, we're doing an episode that we did before.
This one's different. So this is how to write a press release for comedy. So this one is specifically tailored for comedy, and this one was requested by Kazim Rahman. Yeah, I switched it.
Wonderful. Okay, well, great. Well, hi, Kazim Rahman. Welcome. And we are talking about how to write a press release for comedy. And we have done a regular press release before, which will have a lot of the same details. But then let's talk about specifically how to make it for comedy. So this was requested by Kazim. Was it requested because Kazim is doing some sort of show coming up?
Yes. Kazim has a comedy show coming up.
Do you know what it is? You want to give him a plug?
Sure. To my knowledge, it's called Materialistic, and it's going to be a comedy show where it's, what did he call it? A luxury comedy show or something like that? Like more high class. It's going to be more like a party, more of an experience comedy show that he's doing with some people, and he's trying to figure out how to do a press release and how to send the press release, which is the next episode we'll be talking
Where
about. Where
is he doing this comedy show?
LA.
Okay. So like it's like an experience, a comedy show experience night. I get it. That sounds really cool. It sounds like a good idea. Well then this is great. Let's talk through it, and maybe we can even give suggestions for Kazim to do this whole thing. In fact, you know what? I'm also going to make a counter thing, especially out there in our world when you are you have writing to do, you got copywriting to do. Let's all start getting free copywriting from ChatGPT. Just jump on it, everybody.
Yeah, it's great, man. They made my press release.
Everybody should use ChatGPT. Believe it. All right. So now, if you want to create a press release for a comedy activity, you definitely have to think about the fact that it's still an event or whatever. So within the world of press releases, there's different types of press releases. There are event press releases. There's like announcements. There are brand releases. It depends on what you're trying to go for. In this case, it's like specifically for a comedy event. So before we get into exactly how a press release is written, remember that the main thing you want to do is tell people exactly when and where the event is and possibly how much it costs. And if there are any tricks to getting in or getting a ticket or anything like that, you want to make sure they know how to. Basically, just make sure that all of the basic stuff is met in your press release for sure. Just make a list. When is it? Where is it? How do they get tickets? How do they get there? If that's an issue at all, and just write that down and make sure that you tackle those things. And when you're done with the press release, go back and make sure that it's there. Because if it's not there, you're not doing yourself a service. All right. So the press release when we talked about a press release before, one of the things we talked about is that the press release is basically you're saying everything that's happening in like a sentence or two, and then you say
Mm-hmm.
everything that's happening in like a paragraph or two, and then you break down those things. You break down and elaborate on some of those things, and then you end it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And everything has its own place. All right, so everything has its own place. So let's talk first about the introduction. So this is interesting because so we have like just a straight up format for a press release, but we don't have examples. But I'm going to read a press release from a previous press release that I sent out that actually got me on NBC. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I will. Basically, I think the best thing we can do is you will we'll read the we'll talk about what section we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll read the section from a press release that I used in the past that worked, and then we will make some suggestions for Kazim, and then move on. How about that?
Mm-hmm. Sounds good to me.
I think that is not a bad idea. So let me get that other press release.
I didn't realize that even for small events that you can use a press release. I didn't know that till recently. I didn't even think about that. Like, oh, this doesn't have to be a huge thing for me to send a press release. I could send it to small publications and stuff like that too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can send things to lots of places.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some of the smaller publications really enjoy press releases because they don't get sent them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're way nicer. From when I just started sending them. So yeah, they were like, yeah, thanks. I'm like, all right. Cool. All the blogs and stuff too.
Right. I'm trying to find the. I'm so sorry. I can't find this press release. So speaking of, you're gonna cut this part out while we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Is anybody watching right now? There's not, right? So we're not
Mm-mm.
wasting anybody's time. All right. So actually, I know the best way to do this. I can just list a bunch of press releases. Okay, here we go. Here's a great press release. This is a press release for the Anti-Racism Activity book, a book that I made. All right, so let's start off with what? The intro?
Yes.
All right, how would you describe the introduction to a press release?
It's like the hook. Little background info, little key elements. Just like the not the hook. I mean, it's a hook in there, but more so just like the meat of it, because you kind of put all the pertinent information there.
Yeah, and it's just like I said. The introduction is basically who, what, where, when, as much as you can cram into like 2 or 3 sentences. That's basically it. Just like an overview of the event. And so I when I did the my anti-racism activity book. Here is the release for it for July 19th, 2021. Oh, sorry, no, this is actually more recently. But Beat Boot Books announces the Kickstarter campaign. Oh no, this was back in July 19, 2021. Beat Bop Books announces a Kickstarter campaign. This is when the Kickstarter started. They're the Anti-Racism Activity Book, a social satire written and illustrated by New Yorker cartoonist Victor Varnado in the style of a children's puzzle and coloring book. The book features crosswords, word find, and other nostalgic activity book throwbacks combined with original cartooning using humor to illustrate how dumb racism is. Okay, so that was basically the lowdown of everything that was happening, and who, what, where, and when. So since it was a Kickstarter, there was a link to the Kickstarter campaign, so they got the location. And then also it had a joke at the end to really kind of like at least hint to people that it wasn't super serious. And so I think that following that format, because that is the way that following that format, that is the same thing that you should do, Kazim, with your thing. You need to just talk about like, where it is, who are the stars, and then give the personality of the event in the opening as well. Like one line one piece that gives also the personality of the event. If you want it to be upper class, then you'll probably want to hit that with some sort of descriptive words or some sort of hook that is the personality of your event, because sometimes this is all people read, and so it's great to have pack as much as you can and also talk about the personality of the event, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, you say yes.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, there was a time when Roxy used to talk in these podcasts. Yes, I can.
I mean, well, you were very thorough.
Sure, I'm thorough. It doesn't mean you should just sit back, relax, pick your toes.
How you know? Putting it in my press release. I can help more with the next section. Yeah.
Right. And the next section is
key details.
That is right. Next up is key details. So key details are basically everything that you had to skip over in the first version of this. Now you rewrite it, but you just expand on it, the same thing, just a little bit more.
It's like the fluff.
Like the what?
Like the fluffy part.
Yeah, like the fluffy part, but basically you want to start telling a story.
Okay.
You want to start telling a story. Actually, you know what? This is a great. I actually have a press release for a comedy event, and that would probably be even better.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a second. The press release I was reading was great, but I think that if there was one, oh, here we go. Here's the original press release for Bring Back Laughs, and this got in Deadline, which is a great place to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's do this one. Same thing, same basic format. And here is the introduction. Bring Back Laughs is a comedy concert film raising money and support for the charity Direct Relief's efforts against COVID-19. The event combines live performances and video featuring comedians Pete Davidson, Janine Garofalo, Hannibal Buress, Paula Poundstone, Lana Glazer, Hassan Minaj, the Lucas Brothers, Sam Jay, Mike Kaplan, Seth Herzog, and more. Okay? And then that is very close to what something like the type of thing that you would write, Kazim. Anyway, so now we're on to the next section, which is is kind of like a brief. So here's the brief that we did for the next section with like a little more detail. In the same vein as broadcast charity events like Live Aid and cultural landmarks like Woodstock, Bring Back Laughs marks an era in history using the sharpest comic voices of our time while bringing help to those in need. The special was inspired by the live stand-up comedy charity event started by Rebecca Trent in Long Island City, Queens, New York. This is actually really funny because I wrote this before there was Chat GPT. I'm telling you. Yeah, I was killing it. So this is great. And so I think that, right. So in the key details portion, it's a great time to really just do a little bit of storytelling about like what you're doing, what it's about, connect with your target audience, talk about what makes the event unique and noteworthy. And, just really break out the theme or concept of the event. You can just tell the story of what you're trying to achieve. Now, I would not, by the way, say we are trying to achieve. No, don't be like, this is what we're trying to do. Always be more precise, be more action oriented, and be more sure of yourself when you're writing a press release, because people got to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then, next up, the idea is usually you're going to like talk about who the performers are, especially with a comedy event release. Mm-hmm. And so, I usually will include a quote, but in some cases, I will focus on a just like a straight up list. In fact, it looks like in the Bring Back Laughs, in the Bring Back Laugh thing, what we did is we got quotes from a lot of the named performers. So instead of doing a list of the performers and saying this person from this, we had quotes from Alana Glazer, the Lucas brothers, Janine Garofalo, and Adam Felber, who's on Nobody Listens to Paula Poundstone and NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. We wrote that in the press release because he was not as well known as the other people. So we had to say, he's from these things.
I know he does stuff.
Yeah.
Were the quotes about the show itself or about themselves?
Well, the quotes were all about the show. Like, I'm thrilled to help. This is Alana Glazer. I'm thrilled to help bring back laughs and support direct release fight against COVID. By the way, if you have anybody noteworthy in your show, you should get a quote from them and about the show, and then put that in the press release, because it definitely does help. And here's the easiest way to get a quote from somebody is say, hey, I'd like to put a quote from you in my press release. Here, I wrote one for you. I can print it as is, or you can change it in any way you like. That way, it makes it easy for them. Mm-hmm. So all they have to do is like approve it and like, yeah, that happens a lot where I believe more than one of these quotes is like that, where these 4 quotes that are in here are things that were written by me, and I was like, you guys would say this, right? Here's one. Here's one from the Lucas brothers. We're incredibly thankful to take part in such a historic comedy event.
You wrote that one?
We may have with our friends during a tumultuous moment in our country. To us, comedy ought to be used for the greater good. So hopefully we will bring some light to the people in these dark times, and hopefully we will not bomb. I think that they wrote, and hopefully we will not bomb. And I think the rest of it was written by me.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and these are all things that they all approved. Like, I didn't just write something. Don't write stuff and put it in your press release. Just make sure you have people's permission.
That's how you make people not want to work with you anymore.
Janine Garofalo wrote, I'm grateful to wear a mask and stand appropriately 5 feet away from my coworkers. Great. But anyway, so I would say that is a good tactic that we did that you can steal, is get quotes from your performers if you've got any performers. In fact, this is especially a big deal for like smaller shows, because you have like people dropping in on smaller shows all the time that are like big names. I know it happens in the comedy world all the time. So I would do that, especially in New York.
Yeah.
And then of course, the information about how to get tickets, straight up nuts and bolts. So at some point when you've got people to this point, then you're just like, here's how you get there, and here's how you get there. Here's how we want you to participate. This is your call to action, so to speak. So a lot of places will just like release, just be like date, time, location, and then they'll say tickets are blah 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 blah, like that, just straight up like that. No nonsense is probably best. Mm-hmm. For us, the Bring Back Laugh thing was actually just an announcement, a publicity announcement. So we didn't have a place or time to tell people. We were just bragging. So, maybe there's, but for you definitely want to put a place and time. I would just look at press releases for other things too, especially for events. Look for press releases, especially for maybe tours, big tours by big name comedians, and see how they do their press releases and kind of emulate that. The reason I'm saying to do that, because they have somebody they pay thousands of dollars to come up with everything that should be exactly right on a comedy press release, and you should just steal that format.
Facts. Stealing's great when you do it right.
Usually most press releases have a closing. Usually when they're closing, it'll be like a short biography of the most important people involved or the most important companies involved. Like if you're having your event at a specific location, it would be nice to say the such and such location has been around for 40 years and is located in blah blah blah, because then that location will also feel like they can share your press release because you speak of them nicely, and it gives them publicity too. Same thing for if you're involved with any brands that you can also write a little biography for, just like anybody who can help out treat them well on your press release. That's what I would say.
I agree.
Are you asleep?
No, I said I agree. Can you hear me?
I know. I heard you. I heard you. You're so afraid of me not hearing you. I'm so sorry. I keep
scaring me. Well, that's why I turned off the camera too, because my computer was starting acting weird. But yes, I agree.
All right. Okay. Well, then, what we can say about that, everybody, is that is everything that you need to know about a press release for a comedy event. I hope you enjoyed every single word out of our mouths. Check us out at Arts Academy Alt Arts Academy on all social media and artsacademypodcast.com.
You can find us at artsacademypodcast.com.